Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fundamental. Relationships. Specifically, friendship. It's one of those things that, well, arguably shapes our whole lives.
It absolutely does. I mean, You look at the research, the source materials, strong, healthy friendships, they consistently pop up as, like, the key factor for happiness, for a well-rounded life.
So our mission today isn't just to talk about friends, but to really dig deep, right? Go beyond the surface.
Exactly. We want to analyze what these connections truly mean, how they change over time, and, crucially, how we can actually build and maintain them, especially as adults.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. The basic definition. A friend is what? A voluntary bond based on mutual affection.
That word voluntary is everything. It's the big difference maker.
How so?
Well, think about family. That's often a bond of obligation, maybe necessity. Friendship, though, that's a choice. You consciously decide, I'm going to invest my time, my energy, my trust in this person.
And it has to go both ways, that mutual affection part.
Absolutely critical. It's reciprocal. If the feeling isn't shared, well, you're not really talking about friendship anymore. Maybe something else.
Which brings us to that spectrum of connection, like distinguishing a friend from just an acquaintance.
Right. An acquaintance.
Yeah.
That's someone you know, maybe a coworker, the neighbor you wave to. The conversations are usually pretty polite, maybe a bit superficial.
Yeah, you know of them, but you don't really know them.
Exactly. They're a part of our social world, sure, but there isn't that deeper emotional connection. Getting from acquaintance to friend, that takes, well, more effort, moving past just being polite.
So this word friend covers a lot of ground. Let's break down that continuum. Maybe start with the casual friend.
Okay, yeah, casual friends. These relationships are usually built around a specific thing you do together, a shared context.
Like your work friend, or someone from that class you take.
Precisely. Your gym buddy, the person in your pottery class. The connection is real, but it's often tied to that activity. You trust them to show up for the class, maybe, but
the relationship might not survive if the class ends.
often, yeah. It might not have the depth or maybe just the motivation to exist outside that specific environment without extra work.
It's like the activity is the scaffolding holding it up.
That's a good way to put it. So moving up a level, you get to the good friend. This is where the scaffolding starts to come down, maybe.
Right. It moves beyond just one shared activity.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is someone you actually start making plans with, intentional one-on-one time. You know, grabbing dinner, seeing a movie, going for a hike together.
And the conversations get a bit deeper, too.
Definitely. You start talking about hobbies more seriously, maybe minor frustrations, sharing things that make you a little more vulnerable. These are the people who make up, the bulk of our social circle.
Okay, now for the really deep end. The close friend, or maybe even best friend. What makes this level so different, so profound? The sources point to two core feelings.
Yeah, it really boils down to creating this sense of, emotional safety. And that comes from two key things. First, absolute trust.
Absolute trust. That sounds intense.
It is. It means you can be completely vulnerable, share your biggest fears, your deepest insecurities, maybe your most embarrassing moments, and, really know there won't be judgment.
We're talking serious stuff here, not just griping about work.
Exactly. Existential worries, core identity stuff.
Yeah.
It's a huge leap from just trusting someone to, remember a coffee date.
Okay, so absolute trust is one. What's the second?
Unwavering support. And this isn't just like being happy when something good happens to them.
So that's part of it.
It is. But the unwavering part means being there when things are bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. They're the person you can call at 2 a.m. in a crisis. The one who brings soup when you're sick without even asking. That reliability, that knowing they'll be there, that gives you this incredible sense of security. Unconditional acceptance, almost.
That's a really clear picture. But okay, let's be real. Making these kinds of connections, especially the deeper ones, it feels harder as an adult, doesn't it? That post-college phase can feel, well, pretty daunting.
Oh, absolutely. It's a common challenge. Life gets more structured, right? We have jobs, maybe families, less free time. We get a bit more protective of our energy.
So you can't just rely on bumping into people like you did in school.
Nope. You have to be way more intentional, more proactive. It takes deliberate effort.
Okay, so let's walk through that practical process. Step one seems to be about the environment, putting yourself in the right places.
Yes, but not just any place. The key is finding situations based on your hobbies or, importantly, your values.
Why values? Why is that more effective than just, say, joining a random sports league?
Because it acts like a filter, almost. If you join a book club, You're likely with people who share a certain intellectual curiosity, volunteer at an animal shelter. You probably share compassion as a value.
Ah, so it gives you an immediate, deeper connection point.
Exactly. It provides a natural conversation starter that goes beyond just nice weather, huh? It helps bypass that awkward, superficial stage.
Okay, you're in the right environment. Step 2, initiate. You actually have to talk to people.
Someone has to make the first move. Be brave. Ask simple, open-ended questions related to that shared thing you're doing. What'd you think of this month's book? Something like that.
And then comes step 3, which feels crucial. Listen and share.
Oh, massively important. Listening well. It might be the most underrated social skill. Showing you're engaged, making eye contact, asking follow-up questions, that really matters.
But it can't just be listening, right? I think sometimes we forget it's a two-way street.
Totally. You listen, you show interest, but then you also have to contribute. Take the small risk of sharing your own related thought or experience. If you only listen, you just become an interviewer. If you only talk, well, nobody likes that either.
The give and take starts right there.
It does. And that balance, that reciprocity, is what builds the connection. Which leads us to step 4, maybe the scariest one for some people, suggesting the next step, taking it outside the initial context.
Right. You have to actually signal you want to move things forward. Hey, want to grab a coffee sometime next week? That kind of thing.
Exactly. Something casual, low pressure, but it's brave because it transitions the relationship. It says, I see potential here beyond just this class or this group.
It's definitely a moment of vulnerability. You're putting yourself out there. They could say no.
They could. But if you want to turn that acquaintance from the book club into an actual friend, you kind of have to take that step. Risk moving from the group to one-on-one.
So, okay, let's say you made the connection. Now what? Friendships aren't static. They need maintenance. The source material uses this analogy of a small plant.
Yeah, I like that one. It needs nurturing, consistent care. You build the bond through shared experiences over time.
Does it matter what those experiences are? Like, do they have to be big, exciting things?
Not really. Could be just grabbing coffee regularly or, yeah, maybe going to a museum or a concert sometimes. The activity itself is often secondary.
Ah, so the core thing is the shared time, the conversation.
Exactly. The intentional time spent together, being emotionally present with each other, that's what really nurtures the bond.
Okay, let's dive into the real ingredients then. The sources talk about 3 pillars for a quality, lasting friendship. Pillar 1, trustworthiness.
This is the absolute foundation, and it's more layered than just don't tell my secrets.
Right. What else does it involve?
Well, honesty is huge, obviously, and discretion, keeping confidences, yes. But there's also this idea of like predictive reliability.
Predictive reliability, what's that?
It means knowing deep down that your friend is dependable, that they'll actually do what they say they'll do. They show up. They don't constantly cancel plans last minute.
Ah, okay. So it's not just about secrets, it's about trusting their word, their actions. If someone is always sleeping on you.
You stop trusting them, even if they're nice. That lack of reliability corrodes the trust just as much as spilling a secret might.
Makes total sense. Okay, pillar 2, support.
Support. This means, first off, being a genuine cheerleader for their successes, being truly happy for them without jealousy or weird competitiveness creeping in.
That's important, but support is also about the hard times, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so. It's providing that emotional support during hardship, being a patient listener, not judging. And there's actually a technique mentioned, active constructive responding.
Active constructive responding. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so it's about how you react to their good news. Instead of just a passive, oh, that's nice, you respond with real enthusiasm. You ask questions, you engage.
So if they got a promotion, you wouldn't just say congrats.
Right, you'd say something like, wow, that's amazing. Tell me all about it. How did the meeting go? What are you most excited about? How are you going to celebrate? See the difference.
Yeah, it's much more engaged. It shows you really care.
And research suggests that kind of response actually deepens the bond significantly more than just passive agreement.
Fascinating. Okay, 3rd pillar, acceptance.
Acceptance. This is about embracing your friend for who they authentically are. Flaws, weaknesses, quirks, all of it. Not trying to change them or mold them into who you think they should be.
Accepting the whole person.
Exactly. When you feel truly accepted like that, it creates complete emotional safety. You can let your guard down. You can just be.
Trustworthiness, support, acceptance, those are powerful. And acceptance feels extra important because, as we said, relationships aren't static. They evolve, right?
Constantly. Evolution is just gradual change, development, and often that evolution involves facing tests.
Like friendships from when you were young, when your lives were totally intertwined.
Yeah, those face a big test after graduation or whenever that shared context like school or living nearby disappears. Maintaining those connections long distance takes real conscious effort.
And some just fade away.
It happens. If the effort isn't mutual or if people just grow in different directions, friendships can fade. It's natural, though sometimes sad.
Then there are the big life changes, getting married, having kids, major career shifts. Those really impact your time and energy.
Hugely. Strong friendships need flexibility to navigate those shifts. The dynamic has to change. Maybe you can't hang out spontaneously 3 times a week anymore.
So you have to consciously carve out time.
Yeah. Maybe it becomes a planned monthly friends night or a dedicated weekend trip once a year. The frequency might decrease, but the commitment, that underlying agreement to show up for each other, needs to remain.
And inevitably, in any close relationship where you're being vulnerable, conflict is going to happen.
It's unavoidable. Conflict isn't necessarily bad. The key is learning how to navigate it respectfully without blowing up the trust you've built.
What are the usual culprits? Where does conflict often come from?
Often it's simple miscommunication, especially with texts or emails, tone gets lost so easily. Or it might stem from unspoken expectations, assuming something about the friendship that was never actually agreed upon.
So what's the approach when conflict arises? Just ignoring it probably doesn't work.
Definitely not. Ignoring it lets resentment build. The sources are pretty clear. You need to initiate a conversation, and how you start it is crucial, using I statements.
Ah, right. So instead of saying, "You always interrupt me,"
You'd say something like, I felt hurt and unheard when I was trying to share my story earlier. It focuses on your feeling, your experience, rather than blaming the other person. It's less likely to make them immediately defensive.
Okay, so you start with the I statement. What happens next?
Then the other person really needs to listen. Try to understand where you're coming from without immediately jumping in with excuses, and then, ideally, offer a sincere apology.
And a sincere apology isn't just saying sorry, is it?
No. It means taking responsibility for how your actions impacted them. It means validating their feeling, acknowledging that, from their perspective, feeling hurt makes sense. You might offer context or explain your intention, but not as an excuse to dismiss their feelings.
That validation step feels really important.
It is. When you can navigate conflict like that, repair the rupture respectfully. The friendship often comes out stronger on the other side. It builds resilience.
That's the hard work of maintenance. We also need to touch on the modern world. How does all this fit with, the digital age? It feels like a bit of a double-edged sword for friendship.
It really, really is. On the one hand, the huge pro technology is amazing for keeping up with people long distance. And it's incredible for finding your tribe, right? Those niche communities online built around super specific interests.
Yeah, you can connect with people who truly get you, no matter where they live. It's kind of democratized connection in a way.
Totally. But the flip side, the con, is that it can sometimes make connections feel more superficial, more shallow. And it can interfere with our real-life interactions.
You mean like phubbing, phone snubbing?
Exactly that. We've all done it, probably, and we've all had it done to us. Being supposedly present with someone but constantly glancing at your phone.
It sends a pretty clear message, doesn't it?
It sends a hurtful message. This screen is potentially more interesting or important than you are right now. We have to be mindful. Use tech as a tool to support friendships. Send that quick text, schedule that call, but don't let it replace being truly present when you're actually together. Put the phone away sometimes.
Good advice. Okay, wrapping all these ideas together, the sources keep coming back to one core concept for making friendships last: reciprocity.
Yes. Reciprocity. It's that mutual exchange. Effort, care, support. It has to be a two-way street, a partnership.
So signs of imbalance would be, like, if you're always the one making plans.
That's a big one. Or if conversations always feel like a one-sided therapy session where you're doing all the listening and supporting, but get nothing back.
The classic emotional vampire.
Right. The person who takes emotional energy but offers little in return. A healthy, reciprocal friendship should leave you feeling overall energized and supported, not drained and resentful.
But it's not about keeping score minute to minute, is it?
No, definitely not. The balance is measured over the long term. Life happens. There will absolutely be times when one friend is going through a crisis and needs way more support than they can give back.
And the other friend steps up.
Exactly. The key is that underlying mutual commitment is still there. You show up for each other when it counts, knowing that the roles might reverse down the line. It's about the long game.
Okay, this has been a really comprehensive look. So for everyone listening, if we had to boil it down, what are the key takeaways?
Well, I'd say first, understand the different levels. Know the difference between an acquaintance, a casual friend, and a truly close friend. It helps manage expectations.
Second, be intentional. Especially as an adult, you have to be proactive. Put yourself out there, align your efforts with your values.
Third, focus on those pillars of quality. Trustworthiness, including that reliability piece, genuine support, especially that active, constructive responding, and deep acceptance of their authentic self.
And fourth, nurture the bond. Remember the plant analogy. It takes consistent care, shared time, and striving for that long-term reciprocity.
Absolutely.
Thinking about all this, it seems long-term friendship isn't just something that happens. It's an active practice, and maybe it's fundamentally built on forgiveness.
Ooh, that's a powerful thought. Forgiveness or maybe grace. It definitely requires making those small, consistent efforts. Yeah, sending the text, scheduling the call. But it also means giving each other grace.
What do you mean by grace exactly?
It's that kindness, that forgiveness you offer, even when maybe in the heat of the moment, you feel they don't quite deserve it. You cut each other some slack because you value the long-term connection.
So the real secret isn't finding perfect people, but maybe supporting each other as you both change and grow.
I think that's beautifully put. It's about evolving together, supporting each other through new phases of life, rather than trying to keep each other stuck in who you used to be. That's where the real magic of lasting friendship lies. Okay, so if your adult social life feels, less like kicking back with friends and more like managing a complex project, then you are definitely in the right place. We've all done Friendship 101, the basics, the one-on-one connection.
The diet, yeah.
Right. But today, we're kind of leveling up. We're enrolling in the advanced course.
Yeah.
The messy, complicated, real world of modern human connection.
Exactly. We've been digging into the research on the really intricate challenges. This isn't about just making a friend anymore.
Well,
this deep dive is looking at the tough stuff, like group dynamics, what to do about toxic relationships, how to even talk to people across these huge ideological gaps.
Yeah.
And also the bigger picture, these societal pressures that are squeezing our connections.
And this isn't just swapping stories. We want to give you the actual language, the sort of analytical tools to handle these really nuanced, sometimes high-stakes social situations. Our mission today, really, is to unpack all that complexity and maybe surprisingly reveal why having solid social connections isn't just nice, it's now being framed as a public health issue.
That's the real kicker, isn't it? It's shifted. Friendship isn't just personal preference now. It's seen as, vital infrastructure.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack this. And I guess we have to start where most of us actually live our social lives, right?
Yeah.
Not just in pairs, but together.
In the mix, yeah. We don't just exist as duos. We're usually part of a bigger network. Research calls it a social web or, a friend group.
Right.
And moving from that simple pair, the dyad, to a web, it completely changes the game.
How so?
Well, add just one more person to your two-person friendship, and it's not just one more relationship. The whole geometry changes. Communication, loyalty, everything gets way more complicated. It's a whole new ecosystem.
And inside that ecosystem, you see these roles emerge almost immediately. Unofficial, but totally essential roles. My favorite one to think about is the social glue.
The social glue. So crucial. This is the person who sends out the first text, right? Plans the get-togethers, make sure everyone actually knows what's happening.
Keeps the wheels turning.
Exactly. Keeps everyone feeling looped in. It's the relationship maintenance person. But the research really points to the hidden cost of being that person.
I was wondering about that. It sounds exhausting, like a ton of emotional labor.
It really is. The data suggests the social glue often burns out the fastest. They're always initiating, always organizing.
But maybe not getting that back?
Often not, no. They rarely receive the same kind of initiation or care in return. And here's the proof. If the social glue steps back or just gets tired, the whole group often just drifts apart, almost passively. It shows how vital, but also how fragile that one role can be.
Wow. And there are other roles too, right? Like specialized ones.
Definitely. You often see a confidant. That's the person everyone trusts with secrets, the main emotional support hub. And maybe the clown or the comedian, the one who provides that shared laughter, which is actually a really powerful bonding agent for the group.
But it's not always positive, is it? Sometimes groups turn inward.
Right. And when a friend group gets too insular, too exclusive, and starts using that bond to kind of look down on others, well, that's when we start using the term clique.
Ugh, that word. Takes you right back to high school. But you definitely see it in adult life, too.
Absolutely. A clique isn't just close-knit. It actively works, sometimes subtly, sometimes not, to make anyone not in the group feel like an outsider. Little judgments, gatekeeping conversations.
Yeah, that feeling of being on the outside looking in.
And that exclusivity makes conflict way harder to manage. A simple disagreement isn't just between two people anymore.
Right.
It gets tangled up with group loyalty, people taking sides, maybe jealousy, trying to navigate a fight that could split the group. That takes serious diplomatic skills, way beyond handling a one-on-one argument.
Needs a whole different playbook. Okay, but speaking of difficult dynamics, what if the problem isn't the group itself, but one really damaging relationship within that group, or even just one-on-one?
Yeah. Let's shift focus to the toxic friendship. And the research here is super important because it helps us tell the difference between just a rough patch and actual sustained harm.
Okay.
Toxicity isn't about one bad fight or someone having an off day. It's defined by a consistent, ongoing pattern of behavior that leaves you feeling emotionally drained or, frankly, bad about yourself.
So the key is the pattern, the consistency of the negativity. What are some specific red flags people should look out for?
One of the biggest ones, mentioned again and again in the sources, is just feeling completely drained after you see them, like consistently exhausted. This is where that term emotional vampire comes from. It describes someone who seems to just they lean on you for support, often during crises they might have even created.
Okay.
But there's no reciprocity. They don't refill your emotional tank. It's a one-way street, energetically.
That imbalance sounds incredibly wearing over time.
It is. Another sign, sometimes more subtle, is constant criticism, but it's often disguised.
How so?
Like mean-spirited jokes, jabs about your job, your partner, your choices, even your successes. Delivered with a laugh, maybe, but the underlying message is critical. And that steady drip, drip, drip of negativity can seriously erode self-esteem over months or years.
Wow. And I guess since friendship is partly about celebrating good things, the opposite would be a warning sign too.
Exactly. A real lack of genuine happiness when something good happens to you. Maybe you see jealousy, or they find ways to downplay your achievement, or they immediately turn the conversation back to themselves.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like support at all.
Not at all. And these kinds of draining, damaging bonds often need to end. Thankfully, we have words to describe how that happens. Sometimes it's gentle.
Like what?
Like drifting apart. That's the passive way. Life happens, people grow in different directions, maybe you move, change jobs. The shared context fades and the connection just naturally fizzles out. No big drama.
That's the ideal scenario for an ending, maybe. The least painful.
For friendships that were maybe just circumstantial, yeah. But for the really toxic ones, the manipulative ones, a slow fade might not work. It might not even be safe.
So what's the alternative?
In those cases, sometimes you need a clean break. And that means having a conscious, direct conversation. It's usually really difficult, really uncomfortable.
I bet.
But the goal is clarity, making it absolutely clear that the friendship in its current form is over. It prioritizes decisiveness over trying to keep things comfortable.
Okay, direct and clear. And then there's the modern, often controversial method, ghosting.
Yes, ghosting.
Yes.
Just vanishing, right? Stopping all communication suddenly, blocking numbers, ignoring messages, just gone.
Yeah. The sources usually frame it as immature, right? Because it avoids the hard conversation and leaves the other person totally confused with no closure.
Generally, yes. But there's nuance here, too. What if the person you're trying to break from is genuinely volatile or harassing? Is ghosting still immature then? Or is it actually a necessary safety tactic?
That's a really good question.
And the research kind of addresses that. The consensus seems to be ghosting is generally considered immature or unhelpful when conflict resolution could have been possible, even if difficult.
Okay.
However, in situations involving real emotional abuse, manipulation, stalking, or where you feel genuinely unsafe, suddenly cutting off all contact isn't just avoidance. It can be seen as a necessary act of self-preservation, setting a firm, non-negotiable boundary. So the maturity of ghosting really depends on the threat level.
That adds a crucial layer. It's not always just about avoiding awkwardness. Okay, speaking of really tough situations, navigating friendships when you fundamentally disagree on big things.
Great.
especially now.
Yeah, this might be the defining social challenge of our time, trying to maintain relationships across really significant differences, especially with the intense political polarization we're seeing. Society feels like it's splitting into these sharply opposed camps.
And our online lives don't help, do they? They almost seem designed to make it worse.
Totally. We get trapped in our echo chambers online, right? Where social media feeds us only things that confirm what we already believe, or we're stuck inside a filter bubble where the algorithms actively hide information or viewpoints that might challenge us. It makes it incredibly hard to even understand where someone else is coming from, let alone empathize.
So it puts huge stress on friendships, even really old ones.
Massive stress. And dealing with this requires maybe the most advanced social skill there is, the ability to truly agree to disagree.
Which sounds simple, but is actually incredibly hard.
It's so hard. It means consciously deciding that the friendship itself, the history, the shared experiences, the person, is more valuable than winning an argument or being right about a specific issue or ideology.
So how do you even do that in practice?
Often it means explicitly making certain topics off limits. Just agreeing, look, we're not going to talk about X because it always ends badly and our friendship matters more.
Okay, creating conversational no-go zones.
Exactly. And then actively seeking common ground. Instead of diving into the latest political outrage, you focus on what you do share. Maybe it's a shared sense of humor, memories from college, your kids, a favorite sports team, anything that connects you as people.
Focusing on the shared humanity rather than the divisive ideology.
That's the core of it, prioritizing the person over the position. But here's where it gets really interesting and also quite painful. The research points out a clear limit to this agree to disagree approach.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a boundary. What happens when the difference isn't just about, say, tax policy, but about something much more fundamental? Like if a friend expresses views you find deeply racist or sexist or homophobic, views that clash with your core moral values.
Right. Can you still just agree to disagree then?
Yeah.
At what point does staying friends start to feel like you're betraying your own integrity, like you're complicit?
That's the ethical tightrope. If a friend holds views that you believe actively harm or dehumanize others, the idea of just agreeing to disagree often breaks down. The research suggests that becomes an impossible position for many people.
Because the foundation's gone.
Exactly. The shared foundation of basic respect and values might have crumbled. And at that point, the friendship might just reach an unavoidable end because the difference isn't just opinion anymore. It's about fundamental moral alignment.
It shifts the question, doesn't it, from can we handle different views to does this person's worldview fundamentally undermine the moral basis I need for closeness?
Precisely.
Wow. Okay, so that helps frame those really tough individual relationship calls. But let's zoom out again. What about the bigger picture, the sort of systemic things shaping how we connect today? The sources mentioned the rise of the work spouse.
Right. This is such a fascinating modern phenomenon. It perfectly shows how our different life spheres, work, home, are blending.
So what exactly is a work spouse?
It's defined as this really close, but strictly platonic colleague. Someone at work you share deep trust with, rely on for support, maybe vent to. Kind of like the emotional intimacy and loyalty you'd expect from a partner, but entirely non-romantic.
Huh. And it happens at work because that's where we spend so much time.
Largely, yes. We build deep bonds where we invest significant time and face shared challenges. And for many adults, that's the workplace.
Okay, so some intense bonds are forming at work. But what about outside of work? Our sources talked about something declining, the third place.
Yes, the decline of the third place is huge. This is a sociological concept. Your first place is home. Your second place is work.
And the third place is?
It's those other places, neutral, public spaces where people just gather informally. Think local cafes, pubs, parks, libraries, community centers, corner stores, places where you can just hang out, bump into people, chat, spontaneous, low-stakes interaction.
And those places are disappearing or changing.
Many are disappearing, or they're becoming highly commercialized, less accessible, or just less used. We drive everywhere. We order everything online. We stay home more.
And the impact of losing those third places.
It makes forming those casual, spontaneous friendships much, much harder. The kind of friendships that often grow out of just seeing the same faces regularly in a relaxed setting. The infrastructure for easy, unplanned connection is shrinking.
And this lack of easy connection, the sources suggest, leads to something bigger And quite alarming.
It does. It's seen as a major contributing factor to what public health experts are now calling the loneliness epidemic.
Epidemic. That sounds serious, like medically serious.
It is. This isn't just about feeling sad or alone sometimes. It's the widespread, chronic, subjective feeling of disconnection being recognized as a major public health crisis.
A crisis? How?
Because research links chronic loneliness directly to serious physical health problems. Increased risk of heart disease, stroke, dementia, inflammation, even premature death. It's comparable in impact to smoking or obesity. So this is the absolute crucial takeaway from all this research. Friendship isn't just a nice-to-have thing anymore. It's not just about personal happiness. It's being redefined as a fundamental biological necessity, like food or sleep, and a critical public health imperative.
So wait, all these skills we've been talking about, managing group politics, dealing with toxic people, trying to bridge divides, these aren't just like social graces.
Not anymore. They're essential tools for building and maintaining something vital for individual and societal well-being.
It completely changes how you think about the effort involved.
Right. If strong social bonds are literally a matter of public health, then the hard work we put into nurturing these complex, sometimes difficult relationships, that's not just personal growth, it's actually a contribution to a healthier society.
Right.
Like recycling or voting, but for social connection. Hashtag outro.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We went from figuring out who the social glue is in your friend group.
And the burnout risk they face.
Right. To spotting the signs of an emotional vampire and understanding the damage they can do.
We talked about the really tough calculus of trying to find common ground across huge divides.
Yeah.
While also knowing where that moral line is, where agreeing to disagree just isn't possible anymore.
And honestly, just having the right words for these things, click, emotional vampire, clean break, filter bubble. It feels like it gives you a bit more control, a way to understand these really messy, intense adult experiences.
Language is power, definitely. And I think the biggest shift, the key realization, is seeing how our personal social health connects directly to public health.
Yeah.
The simple everyday act of building and maintaining these bonds, especially now when everything feels so polarized and isolating, that's actually building a healthier community, one relationship at a time.
So with that really powerful idea in mind, we want to leave you with a final thought for the week, something to chew on.
Okay.
Since friendship is a public health imperative, that makes the work of the social glue pretty vital, right?
Absolutely vital work.
So what's one single act of being the social glue that you could do this week? Maybe it's initiating the group chat. Maybe it's actively looking for common ground with someone challenging. Maybe it's just planning the next coffee or call. What will your act be? The health of your social circle, and maybe, in a small way, society could actually depend on it.
It's a great challenge. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the advanced, sometimes tricky dynamics of connection. We really hope this gives you some useful tools.
Build those bridges, maintain those bonds. Until next time.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something, well, fundamental. We're taking friendship, something we all experience, and really pushing past the everyday dynamics.
Yeah, we're heading into the deep end, philosophically speaking.
Right. Asking things like, what is connection, really? How does it build who we are? And the big one, maybe, can a machine ever truly be a friend?
That's the mission today. We're covering a lot of ground, classical ideas, modern sociology, and even looking ahead at, well, the future of how we connect.
The aim is to give you a real shortcut to understanding the core of these human bonds.
Exactly, to get you thinking deeply about it all.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Right.
We've kind of structured this dive into 4 main parts. We'll start way back with some ancient ideas about connection types.
The pillars, you could say.
Yeah, the pillars. And then we'll look at how friends actually shape our identity. After that, the sort of tangible value of friendships.
Social capital.
Social capital, right. And finally, we'll tackle the future stuff, AI, VR, and what that means for friendship.
It's a journey, but it provides a really useful framework for thinking about your own relationships. And to start, we really have to go back to the Greeks.
Absolutely. You can't talk philosophy of friendship without Aristotle. It's amazing how relevant his ideas, 2,500 years old, still are. He basically broke friendship down into 3 types.
He did, and the first one is what he called the friendship of utility.
Okay, utility. Sounds a bit, cold.
It can sound that way, but it's really just practical. It's transactional. The bond exists because there's some mutual benefit, some use.
So like work colleagues on a project. Or maybe someone you carpool with.
Exactly. Business partners, study buddies, maybe even your neighbor you borrow tools from. The connection serves a specific practical purpose for both people.
And Aristotle's point was these are temporary.
Inherently ephemeral, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're based on need or use. Once that shared need disappears, the project ends, you finish the class, you move house, the friendship often just dissolves.
Without much drama, usually.
Often, yes. Because the foundation wasn't deep personal connection, it was shared circumstance.
Okay, so that's utility. What's the second type?
The second is the friendship of pleasure. And this one's probably much more familiar to most people, especially earlier in life.
Ah, the fun friends.
Pretty much. The bond here is based on shared enjoyment, good times, having fun together.
You're going out, buddies. People on your sports team, maybe friends you game with online.
All classic examples.
Yeah.
People you hang out with because it's enjoyable, they make you laugh, you share a specific hobby or interest that brings pleasure.
But like the utility ones, these are also unstable.
Fundamentally, yes, according to Aristotle anyway. Because the foundation is the shared pleasure. If that source of pleasure changes, you develop new hobbies, maybe you stop going out as much, or just grow apart. The reason for the connection weakens.
So the friendship fades because the fun thing you did together isn't there anymore.
Exactly. The common ground shrinks.
It's interesting, though, even if they're less stable, these types feel necessary. We need work contacts. We need people to just relax and have fun with.
Oh, absolutely. They serve vital functions. Aristotle wasn't dismissing them, just categorizing them, but he saved the highest praise for the third type.
Okay, the third one. This is the big one.
This is the one he considered the ideal. The friendship of the good, or sometimes called virtue friendship.
Virtue friendship. What makes this one different, and why is it so rare?
It's different because the bond isn't based on what you get from the person, either utility or pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on mutual admiration for each other's character, their virtues.
So you value the person for who they are.
Exactly, for their intrinsic worth. You admire their integrity, their kindness, their wisdom, whatever virtues you see in them. And they admire yours. You genuinely wish the best for them, for their own sake.
Regardless of circumstances?
Precisely. It's not dependent on shared activities or needs. If one of you faces hardship or moves away, this bond ideally endures because the core reason for it, the person's character, remains.
That makes sense why it's the most enduring. It's built on something deeper.
Much deeper. And also why it's rare. It requires time, effort, mutual understanding, and, well, both people striving to be good people.
It's a really powerful way to look at your own friendships, isn't it? To think, okay, which category does this fit into? Why has this one lasted and that one faded?
It gives you a lens, a framework for analysis. And understanding that structure, especially the virtue friendship aspect, leads us nicely into the next part.
Right. If the best friendships are about character, how do friends actually influence our character? How do they shape who we become?
Well, there's that common saying, right? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, I've heard that. It sounds a bit simplistic maybe, but there's a core truth there.
There's a deep psychological reality behind it. Friends act as kind of social mirror.
A social mirror. Explain that a bit more.
Okay, so think about it.
Yep.
Your friends react to you. They perceive you in certain ways. They have expectations of you. Through their interactions, they reflect an image of yourself back to you.
And seeing that reflection helps us figure out who we are.
It's a huge part of it. It helps solidify our self-concept. For example, maybe one group of friends sees you as the funny one. Their laughter and expectations reinforce that part of your identity when you're with them.
But another group might see you as, I don't know, the responsible, organized one.
Exactly. And you might lean into that role with them. We often show different facets of our personality to different friend groups.
So it's like we're curating our identity.
In a way, yes. Identity curation. We explore different parts of ourselves, see how they land, get feedback through these social mirrors, and adjust accordingly. It's a dynamic process of self-construction.
That makes sense. What about friends who are different from us, maybe people we look up to?
Ah, yes, aspirational friendships. We're often drawn to people who embody qualities we admire or wish we had more of ourselves. Maybe they're incredibly articulate or compassionate or courageous.
And being around them rubs off on us.
It can be a powerful driver for personal growth. They challenge us, maybe implicitly, sometimes explicitly, to develop those qualities in ourselves, to raise our standards, you could say.
So there's a kind of tension needed then. You need friends who just accept you as you are.
Yes, friends who affirm our current identity, Provide that unconditional acceptance, that comfort zone. That's crucial for stability.
But you also need those friends who push you a bit, who inspire you to become better.
Exactly. Friends who help you shape your future self. A healthy social life probably needs a balance of both the affirming and the aspirational. It's friendship as this ongoing project of becoming.
Okay, so friendship shapes us psychologically. It helps build our identity. Does this value, this shaping, translate into anything more, I guess, tangible? Does it have a kind of real-world worth?
Absolutely. And this takes us from the psychological mirror to a more socioeconomic idea. Friendship generates something very valuable that sociologists call social capital.
Right, social capital, not like financial capital, obviously.
No, it's different. It's the value you get from your social networks. It's built on things like trust, reciprocity, goodwill between people. It's an intangible asset, but a very real one.
Intangible. So how do you build it? You can't just deposit it in a bank.
No. You build it slowly, consistently, through being reliable, through listening, through offering support, showing up for people. It's earned trust. It's based on relationships, not transactions.
So it's the value inherent in having a strong network of people you can rely on and who can rely on you.
Precisely. And the practical benefits are huge. Research consistently links strong social capital to better health outcomes, greater happiness, more resilience in tough times.
And practical things too, right? Like getting help finding a job or borrowing something from a neighbor or getting advice.
All classic examples of drawing on social capital. Think about communities after a disaster. Studies show that places with higher social capital, where people know and trust each other, tend to recover much faster.
So it's almost like social infrastructure.
That's a great way to put it. It's the network of trust and cooperation that helps individuals and communities function effectively. It's not just about who you know in a shallow networking sense.
It's deeper, about cultivating strong, symbiotic relationships, where it's mutually beneficial in the long run because of that underlying trust.
Exactly. Someone rich in social capital has a wealth of support, information, and opportunity available to them. Even if their bank account isn't huge, it's a vital form of wealth.
Wow. Okay, so friendship is philosophically deep, psychologically formative, and economically valuable. But what happens next? Where is this all going, especially with technology?
The next frontier. This immense value built over millennia is now facing, well, a potential paradigm shift. We have to talk about AI and VR.
Right. This feels like where the definition of friendship itself gets really tested.
It does. Let's start with AI companionship. We're already seeing AI chatbots designed specifically to be friends. They offer 204/7 availability, non-judgmental listening, advice.
And for people who are lonely, that sounds potentially amazing. A lifeline, maybe?
It's definitely framed that way. But it throws up a huge dilemma. Can an algorithm actually be a friend?
Because the affection, the empathy
Yeah.
is simulated, right?
It's algorithmically generated empathy. The AI can be incredibly good at predicting and mimicking the right response, the supportive thing to say, but it doesn't feel it. There's no shared consciousness, no independent inner life experiencing that emotion.
Which challenges that whole Aristotelian virtue friendship idea because the core admiration and care isn't truly mutual.
Exactly. The AI can't genuinely care for your sake. It's programmed to act like it does. There's also a risk, isn't there, of becoming dependent on something that can't truly reciprocate vulnerability.
Yeah, and if your social mirror is an AI that only reflects back perfection or exactly what you want to hear, what does that do to your ability to handle real, messy human relationships?
That's a critical question. Then you layer on top of that the metaverse and advanced virtual reality.
Where we can interact with avatars in super realistic digital spaces, build whole friendships online without ever meeting in person.
Right. So does embodiment matter? Is a friendship that exists purely in a disembodied virtual space as meaningful or as real as one with shared physical presence?
Does shaking a virtual hand or sharing a virtual laugh carry the same weight?
Does that shared physical history, the memory of actual presence, the little nonverbal cues, the shared experience in a physical space, does that add an irreplaceable element?
I guess the answer might depend on how good the tech gets, how immersive.
Perhaps. The fidelity of the experience could be key. As VR gets more indistinguishable from reality, maybe those lines blur. But it still pushes us back to Aristotle.
Can you have a virtue friendship based on deep mutual character admiration entirely through avatars and screens? Or is it mostly utility and pleasure playing games, sharing info?
It's the fundamental question. As technology gets better and better at simulating the functions of friendship, the utility, the pleasure, even the supportive talk,
Yeah.
what's left? What is the truly irreducible core of human friendship?
What's the part that can't be simulated or digitized?
That's the philosophical endpoint we arrive at.
Wow. Okay. So we've gone from ancient Greece through psychology and social capital right up to these really challenging future questions.
It's a huge landscape. But the synthesis, I think, is that friendship isn't one single thing. It's a spectrum of bonds, it's a mirror for the self, it's a crucial form of wealth, and now it's a concept under technological pressure.
And hopefully you listening now feel better equipped. You've got these frameworks, Aristotle's type, social capital, AI empathy, to think more clearly and maybe more deeply about the connections in your own life.
That's the goal, to give you the tools for richer reflection. And as you think about all this, about AI friends and virtual worlds, we want to leave you with one final thought to maybe chew on.
A provocative one.
Hopefully, if you had to boil friendship down to its absolute most vital essence, what is that single component, that irreducible core for you? Is it shared history? Is it vulnerability? Is it knowing the other person has independent thoughts and feelings? What's the one thing you wouldn't trade for digital convenience?
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're opening what feels like the final reflective chapter of friendship. We're looking at the most challenging, maybe the most profound, and ultimately, I think, the most beautiful stage of human connection.
Yeah, we're really moving beyond, the making friends stage or dealing with conflict.
Right.
This is about what happens when friendships face the really big tests: time, loss, radical change in life circumstances.
Exactly. And the source material we're exploring today, it focuses on those deeply human processes that happen towards the end of the typical friendship life cycle.
That's right. Things like the need sometimes to completely renew your social circles as an adult.
Which is huge.
It is. And celebrating bonds that maybe don't fit the usual mold, and also confronting the heavier subjects like aging and ultimately mortality.
So our mission today is to really extract the core insights from this material. We want to help you navigate what can be a profound challenge rebuilding your social world. And also recognizing the immense value of those people who become, as the sources say, the living archive of your life.
It's a beautiful phrase.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Where do we start?
Well, I think we had to start with a tough reality. Something that, honestly, so many listeners probably face in their 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe.
Yeah.
The great friendship reset. That experience where, maybe because of a big life event, a move across the country, a divorce, maybe recovering from a serious illness.
Right.
Your entire social world, your infrastructure, it just feels like it's been, wiped clean.
Yeah.
Gone. You literally have to start from scratch.
And it's so jarring, isn't it? Because adulthood, the way it's often structured, it almost resists making new friends.
How so?
But when we're young, you've got built-in structures, right? School, university, maybe your first job. They kind of force you into constant contact with potential friends.
Yeah, it happens almost automatically.
But the sources point out that once those structures fade away, adults often face something called social atrophy.
Social atrophy. Okay, that sounds a bit clinical, maybe a little intimidating.
It does, but the analogy works. Like a muscle, your social skills, your networks, they can weaken if you don't actively use and maintain them.
So if my social muscles have, atrophied, how do the sources suggest I get over that huge psychological barrier of admitting, okay, I'm lonely, and then trying to make new friends as a grown-up? That feels really vulnerable.
You've hit the nail on the head there. It's the inertia of adult life.
Yes.
That's the key problem the sources identify.
Inertia.
Yeah, we're tired, right? We've got work, maybe family responsibilities pulling at us.
Always.
And the sheer effort required to initiate something new, a new friendship, it feels immense.
Yeah.
And deeply vulnerable.
There's a real contrast drawn in the material, isn't there, between how easy, almost passive socialization can feel when you're young and the very active, conscious effort it takes later on.
Absolutely. So just, waiting by the phone for an invitation or hoping you'll magically bump into your next best friend at the supermarket.
Probably not going to cut it.
Not usually, no. The sources are pretty clear.
Yeah.
This requires a conscious, deliberate strategy. You have to actively reestablish your social infrastructure.
That phrase again, social infrastructure, it sounds like construction work.
In a way, it is.
Yeah.
And the sources get quite specific about how to sort of lay the foundations.
Okay.
They argue that successful rebuilding often means looking beyond the usual places we think of for community.
Like not just bars or networking events.
Exactly. It means finding environments that are structured but low stakes.
Yeah.
Places where you have repeated, kind of unplanned interactions with the same people over time.
Okay, practically speaking, what does that look like? What are these high-yield activities for, flexing those social muscles again?
Think about shared interest groups, maybe, rather than pure networking. Things like volunteering for a cause you care about, or taking a class pottery, learning a language, something like that. Even joining an amateur sports league, if that's your thing. The key element is consistency. Shared activity that isn't directly tied to work pressure.
Right, so the focus isn't immediately on finding a deep soul-bearing connection.
Not at first, no. It's about rebuilding the entire web. You need the acquaintances, the casual connections, the people you just nod hello to. That's the base.
It sounds like this journey, then, from what you called a clean slate back to a hopefully rich social life. It's a project, a long-term, self-directed project.
It really is. And the sources actually describe it as one of the bravest projects an adult can undertake.
Brave because it goes against the grain.
Yeah, partly because it fights that unspoken cultural expectation that, once you hit a certain age, your social life is just set, fixed.
Right.
It requires acknowledging that social vitality, much like your physical health, needs ongoing maintenance. It doesn't just happen.
And interestingly, the sources mention that people who do successfully rebuild often find connections outside their immediate age group.
That's a perfect segue, actually, because the sources spend a good amount of time discussing the unique beauty of these, unconventional bonds.
You mean friendships that don't fit the typical peer model?
Exactly. We usually think of a friend as someone roughly our age, maybe going through similar life stages. But what about friendships that really bridge the ages?
These intergenerational friendships, like, a 30-year-old being close friends with a 70-year-old.
Precisely. The sources really stress that these bonds, they kind of defy easy social categorization. And because of that, they offer a type of insight, a perspective that friendships with peers often can't.
Why is that difference so valuable? What do they offer?
Well, the sources talk about intense cross-pollination of ideas. Think about it. A friendship mostly with your peers can sometimes become a bit of an echo chamber.
You all validate each other's current anxieties or experiences.
Right. But an intergenerational friendship, it inherently breaks that chamber wide open. Different life experiences, different worldviews colliding in a positive way.
So, okay, for the younger person in that friendship, the benefit seems pretty clear. It's perspective, right?
Often, yes.
You're maybe freaking out about a career change or a bad breakup.
Yeah.
The older friend has that credibility that comes from decades of lived experience. They can offer genuine wisdom.
They can look at your current crisis, which feels all-consuming to you, and genuinely say, look, this too shall pass. And you believe them because they've seen it before. It's incredibly grounding.
That makes sense.
What's fascinating here is the sources emphasize this. It's fundamentally reciprocal mentorship.
Reciprocal. Okay, so it's not just a one-way street, not just the older person imparting wisdom downward.
Absolutely not. It's a genuine exchange.
So what does the younger friend bring to the table then, beyond, maybe youthful energy or something simple like that?
Connection. Connection to the present. The younger friend offers relevance.
How so?
They can explain new technology, maybe decode cultural trends, challenge assumptions the older person might hold that have perhaps calcified a bit over time.
Okay, so it keeps the older person from feeling disconnected or isolated from the modern world.
Exactly. It helps bridge the generational gap for both people involved. The younger friend gets perspective, the older friend gets relevance, and maybe a fresh way of looking at things.
So it keeps the older friend mentally agile, perhaps, and the younger friend emotionally grounded. That sounds like a fantastic exchange.
It really is. And these kinds of long-term friendships, whether intergenerational or peer-based, the ones that span decades, they become absolutely central as we move into the, quote, golden years.
Yeah, this is where the sources suggest the function of friendship itself really shifts, doesn't it?
Fundamentally, yes.
I found this part of the research particularly moving. Once the big career push is maybe over, the daily grind of raising kids is done. Friends often move from the edges of life back to the very center. They become this crucial bulwark against potential loneliness and isolation in later life.
And the sources use this beautiful phrase to define this phase, especially for lifelong bonds. They say these friendships become a living archive.
A living archive?
And keeper of your memories.
Wow. A living archive. That reframes it completely.
Yeah.
When we think about memory, it's usually so personal, so internal.
Right.
But this suggests your oldest friends are almost like co-authors of your own history, your unwritten history.
You really are. They might be the only other people on the planet who remember the specific person you were at 18 or 25 or 40.
Yeah, the triumphs, the questionable fashion choices, the first big heartbreaks. They remember it all.
And that shared history becomes profoundly important as we age. The sources point out that when you're with those old friends, the friendship itself allows you to access all those different versions of yourself that existed throughout your life.
They help solidify your own story, your personal narrative, especially, I imagine, if your own memory starts to get a bit fuzzy.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They can fill in the gaps. They can say, no, remember that trip we took back in '98? You were so adventurous then. They hold pieces of you.
And the sources talk about an incredible intimacy that arises from what they call shared mortality.
It's a powerful concept.
When you're young, life feels, well, practically infinite. But when you reach this later stage with friends, you're kind of walking the final stretch of the road together.
Yeah.
There's this shared knowledge that this deep, decades-long history, it will eventually end for one or both of you.
And that shared awareness, that sense of limited time, it strips away so much of the trivial stuff.
Right.
Conversations in the golden years, according to the research, often achieve this incredible depth, this honesty, this raw vulnerability. People stop worrying so much about status or making small talk.
They focus on what actually matters.
Exactly. The trivial concerns just fall away.
So the essence, then, of friendship in this final stage, it's about the profound act of bearing witness to another person's entire life.
Yes. And crucially, having your own life witnessed in return. Knowing that someone truly sees you, remembers you, holds the entirety of who you were.
Which leads us, I suppose, inevitably to the most difficult part of this whole life cycle, the definitive end,
Yes.
the loss.
Here's where it gets really interesting, or perhaps really challenging, because we have to talk about death and the unique kind of grief, often unsupported grief, that follows losing a close friend.
The sources are very clear on this point. The grief we feel for a close friend is often what psychologists call disenfranchised grief.
Disenfranchised grief, what does that mean exactly?
It means it's a loss that society doesn't fully acknowledge or validate in the same way it does other losses.
Okay.
Think about it. When a spouse dies, or a parent, or even a sibling, there are usually clear rituals. Funerals, time off work, sympathy cards, casseroles showing up at your door.
Right, there's a recognized script for mourning.
Exactly. But when you lose a friend, even one who was, for all intents and purposes, your chosen family, that societal support structure often just isn't there. People might say, oh, that's sad, but then expect you to basically carry on the next day.
Pretty much. There isn't the same formal recognition of the depth of your loss. And that must make dealing with that profound void even harder.
Yeah. How do you cope with losing, as we said, the co-author of your life story when the world around you barely seems to register their absence from your life?
Well, the sources suggest it creates a very lonely kind of bereavement. The grieving process becomes this daily, private struggle. It's about constantly grappling with loss.
Like those moments, the instinct to pick up the phone, to share some news or a funny story, and then that gut punch of remembering they're not there to call.
Exactly that. Those small daily reminders are constant. And because the societal rituals are often missing, the sources emphasize that you might need to consciously create your own ways to mourn and remember.
What sort of rituals are we talking about? Did the research give examples?
It did mention things like maybe establishing an annual day of remembrance, perhaps shared with other friends who knew the person, or writing down favorite stories and anecdotes to keep them vivid. Maybe consciously continuing a tradition or a hobby you shared together.
So it's about actively keeping the connection alive, even after death.
Yes. It's about allowing that relationship to transcend death, to continue through active memory and intentional practice.
I really like that idea that the relationship doesn't just end, it transforms.
Precisely. The sources suggest you keep the bond alive by telling their stories, by consciously trying to live according to values they inspired in you, and even by internalizing their voice. Asking yourself, what would they say about this? Hearing their advice or commentary in your head when you face a challenge.
So in the end, the sources seem to conclude that the ongoing life of the survivor, your life after they're gone, it becomes a kind of testament to the bond you shared.
Beautifully put, yes. The person is physically gone, but the impact of the friendship is eternal. It's irrevocably shaped who you are. It doesn't disappear.
So if we try to tie all these threads together,
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we've really explored in this deep dive is just how complex and how skill-based friendship truly is across a lifetime.
It's not just passive.
Not at all. It requires real resilience, the resilience to start anew.
Yeah.
After loss or change. It requires openness, the openness to bridge vast differences like age. And it requires real emotional fortitude, the strength to navigate profound loss and grief when those bonds eventually break.
It's presented almost as a psychological necessity, isn't it? A form of profound social wealth.
Definitely. The sources are unequivocal, really. They position friendship as perhaps the greatest and arguably the most enduring project of our lives.
We started this discussion with the huge challenge of renewal, of starting over.
You have a clean slate.
And we've ended with this idea of the eternity of memory, of bonds transcending death. So what does this all mean?
I think it means that a true friendship, one that deeply shapes you, is never actually lost, because its impact becomes woven into the very fabric of your identity.
So the conversation changes but doesn't end.
Exactly. When a friend departs, the active external conversation might stop, but their presence, their influence, it becomes internalized. They become a permanent guiding voice, a presence in your inner world.
That's a really profound thought for you, the listener, to maybe explore. Thinking about yourself right now, what specific parts of you, maybe your sense of humor, your resilience in tough times, your perspective on something, what parts are, in effect, an archive of a bond you've shared with someone?
It encourages us to cherish the complexity of all our connections, doesn't it? And to recognize the immense scope of what friendship offers us, really at every single stage of life, from that first awkward connection right through to the last shared memory.
Thank you for diving deep with us today.
Until next time, welcome back to the Deep Dive.
So today, we're really stepping beyond, the basics of friendship.
Yeah, we're not talking about just meeting people or like casual acquaintances.
No, we are heading straight into the deep end, the emotional stuff, focusing on those, let's say, advanced skills.
Right, high-level skills you need for genuine, really long-term connection.
If the start is about maybe shared history, this next stage feels more about like moral courage.
I think that's a great way to put it. We're looking at those moments where relationships just face immense pressure. This whole deep dive is really about the emotional intelligence,
Right.
the intelligence you need to handle the toughest challenges, giving you hopefully a bit of a shortcut to that practical wisdom when things get really serious.
Okay. And we've mapped out, I think, 3 pretty demanding areas to explore today. What are they?
Yeah, 3 main territories. First, it's the courage required to speak difficult truth. That uncomfortable stuff. We're calling it radical candor.
Okay. Radical candor. Second, we kind of have to look at the dark side, the devastation of betrayal, understanding what it is, what it does.
The anatomy of it.
Exactly. And then, finally, the really hard part, the road back. Or if there's a road back. So, apology, reconciliation, that fragile hope.
Got it. So the idea is you listening can take this away and use it, have a richer way to think about your own connections.
And hopefully find a bit more courage, maybe more compassion in how you handle them. Using both, really.
All right, let's jump in. First paradox, deep connection. It's like a true friend loves you, accepts you, flaws and all, but they also want you to be your best self. And that sometimes means they have to challenge you.
Right. That's the tension, isn't it? And that's ground zero for this concept. Radical candor. It got popularized in work settings, actually.
Yeah, I've heard it mentioned in business context.
Right. But it's real test. It's ultimate proving ground. It's in our closest relationships. It's maybe the highest expression of actually caring.
Okay, so candor, honest, open. Makes sense. But radical. That sounds like more than just openness. Is it about why you're being honest?
Precisely. It's driven by profound personal concern. Radical candor is definitely not just brutal honesty.
Okay, good.
That's not it at all. It's not cruelty dressed up as truth. Think of it like 2 axes crossing.
Yeah.
One axis is caring personally, really truly having that person's back. The other axis is being willing to challenge directly, to say the hard thing.
And radical candor is where they meet. The sweet spot.
Exactly. High care, high challenge. That's where you want to be.
But okay, why is this so much harder with friends than, say, colleagues? Like I might tell a coworker, those presentation slides, not great.
Yeah, relatively easy.
But telling my best friend, this whole career path you're on, I think it's wrong for you. Whoa! That feels existentially risky, like friendship ending risky.
That's the core difference, isn't it? The emotional stakes in a real friendship are just, they're sky high. You risk real permanent loss. And that risk, that fear, it pushes people towards the failure zones, the bad quadrants.
Okay, what are those?
Well, if you challenge directly, but you don't really care personally, or at least it doesn't come across that you care.
Then you're just being a jerk.
Pretty much. That's obnoxious aggression. Just mean, really.
Okay. But the one that maybe kills friendships more slowly, the opposite one.
Ah, yes. Ruinous empathy.
That sounds bad.
It is bad, just in a different way. Ruinous empathy is when your fear of conflict, your fear of upsetting them, overrides your responsibility as a friend.
So you care.
You do. You care personally, but you fail to challenge directly. You see your friend, maybe they're spiraling financially or stuck in a really toxic relationship.
And you just watch. Say nothing.
You say nothing because you're more afraid of their anger today than you are of their potential disaster tomorrow.
Wow. That really frames it. Putting their immediate comfort over their long-term well-being.
Yeah.
It feels, like a kind of betrayal in itself. A soft one, maybe?
It really is. So let's take a scenario. Your friend has this great business idea. They're super passionate.
Okay.
But you, looking at it, spot a really big, maybe fatal flaw in how they plan to market it.
Right.
Ruinous empathy means you keep quiet, maybe just say, sounds great. Obnoxious aggression is blurting out your marketing plan is garbage.
Neither is helpful.
Not at all. So what does the radically candid script actually sound like? It needs structure, right?
Yeah.
Intentionality.
Yeah, it can't just tumble out. It has to feel like it comes from love, not judgment.
Exactly. It's built around collaboration and respect. You start by validating their effort, their dream. I am genuinely so impressed by your creativity and how hard you've worked on this. Something like that.
Okay. Start positive. Affirm them.
Then you clearly state your positive intent for raising the issue. This is key. Look, because I believe in you and this project so much, I feel I kind of have a duty to be honest about this one potential pitfall I see with the marketing.
Ah, that duty. Framing it as service, not criticism.
Yes. And then you make it collaborative. My only goal here is helping you succeed. Could we maybe grab an hour, brainstorm some solutions to this potential gap together?
So you end by asking for partnership. We're in this together.
That's the essence. Radical candor. It's like the ultimate proof of what some philosophers call a virtue friendship. You risk that short-term friction, that awkwardness, maybe even anger.
For the long-term good.
Yeah.
For helping each other be better.
Exactly. It shows massive respect for your friend's ability to handle the truth.
That takes real courage.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the courage to challenge, to build. But now we have to shift gears. What happens when that very trust, the trust you need for candor, what happens when it's just completely broken?
Yeah, now we move into the shadow side, the anatomy of betrayal.
And this isn't just a mistake, right? You're saying it's different.
Fundamentally different. A mistake is, an error. Bad judgment, maybe. Betrayal. Betrayal is a violation. It breaks that implicit promise, I've got your back. It's a conscious choice, usually, to shatter that core trust.
And it probably shows up in different ways. It's not just one thing.
No, it tends to fall into, let's say, 3 main painful categories. The first one, and maybe the most common, betrayal of a secret.
Ah. You tell a friend something in confidence?
Exactly. You share a vulnerability, you hand them a fragile piece of yourself, and then they use it against you. Or they gossip. Or they're just careless and it gets out.
Ugh. Turning intimacy into shame or public exposure. Weaponizing vulnerability.
That's it, exactly. The second type is more direct. Betrayal of loyalty.
Like,
Actively undermining you. The friend who goes for the same job promotion behind your back. Or someone who promises to support you in a conflict and then publicly sides against you. It's the classic stab in the back, right?
yeah, painful because you didn't see it coming from that direction.
Precisely. And then there's a third kind, which can feel almost more disorienting in a way.
Okay.
It's the discovery of a false self.
A false self.
Yeah.
Meaning.
Meaning you realize the person you thought you were close to wasn't real. Or at least the version they showed you wasn't. It was a performance, maybe for years. Some call it like emotional infidelity in the friendship.
Whoa. That must be devastating.
Yeah.
Because it's not just losing the friend now.
It contaminates the past.
Right. Every memory, every shared laugh, every deep talk. You suddenly question, was any of that genuine? Was I a fool?
It's shattering. It forces this awful crisis of self-judgment, too. Like, if I was so wrong about this person I let so close, what does that say about my own judgment, my ability to see people clearly.
So the impact isn't just sadness.
Oh, no, it's way more complex. It's this horrible mix of grief, definitely,
Yeah.
but also rage, deep sadness, and maybe the most corrosive thing, disillusionment.
Disillusionment, like losing faith not just in that person, but maybe in connection itself. Like, is a real loyalty even possible?
That's often the deepest wound. It goes beyond the specific relationship. But understanding the wound, naming it, that has to be the first step if there's any chance at all of healing. Which brings us to the really hard road.
Reconciliation. And you said it has to start with a true apology, which, let's be honest, is rare. We mostly get these non-apologies.
Oh, yeah, the classics. I'm sorry if you were offended.
Ugh, instantly puts it back on the person who was hurt. Like maybe you're just too sensitive.
Exactly. Or the other favorite, I'm sorry, but. And whatever comes after the but just cancels out the sorry.
Right. It's an excuse, not an apology. So a real restorative apology,
Yeah.
the kind needed to even begin thinking about repair. What does that actually involve? You mentioned 4 key parts.
Yes. 4 non-negotiable components. First, clear, unambiguous responsibility. No ifs, no buts, no excuses, just direct. What I did was wrong. I broke your trust. I take full responsibility for that.
Okay. Own it completely.
Second, you have to show you get it. You understand the impact. A genuine expression of remorse.
So more than just, I'm sorry.
Much more. Something like, I can only imagine how much pain I caused you, realizing I hurt you this deeply. It's devastating to me. Show you've thought about their experience.
Okay. Own it. Show you understand the pain. Third,
And this is where so many attempts fail, no expectation of forgiveness. The apology is a gift. It's offered freely. The person who was betrayed owes the betrayer absolutely nothing in return. No pressure.
so you're acknowledging the wrong you did, but you're not demanding that they make you feel better about it.
Exactly. The apology is for them, not to relieve your own guilt. And then the final piece.
Actions, not just words.
Absolutely. Commitment to changed behavior. Words can maybe crack open the door just a little, but trust. Trust is only rebuilt slowly through consistent, reliable, trustworthy actions over time. Proof that whatever caused the betrayal won't happen again.
That's a really high bar. Own it. Show remorse. Expect nothing. Commit to change. It sounds almost impossibly perfect. Is it realistic to expect someone, especially in an emotional mess after betraying someone, to hit all 4 points perfectly?
It's incredibly difficult. And maybe the person receiving the apology needs to have some grace around how perfectly it's delivered, but the framework is crucial. It's like a moral compass.
Okay.
If any of those core pieces are missing, especially the responsibility, the lack of expectation, the commitment to change, them trying to rebuild, is probably unsafe for the person who was hurt. It protects them from accepting, half-baked apologies built on shaky ground.
Right. It sets a standard for genuine repair. So
Yeah.
let's say, miraculously, the apology happens. It feels real. And the friends decide to try to take that hard road back. The friendship that comes out the other side. It can't be the same, can it? It carries that scar.
It's never the same. It's changed. But maybe not just in a bad way. I love the metaphor you brought up earlier. The kintsugi friendship.
Ah, the Japanese pottery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kintsugi. The art of repairing broken ceramics, not by hiding the cracks, but by mending them with lacquer mixed with powdered gold, silver, or platinum.
Making the repair beautiful, visible.
Yes. The philosophy is that the object is more beautiful for having been broken and repaired. The cracks, the golden seams, they become part of its history, its story. They aren't hidden.
So the kintsugi friendship, the memory of the betrayal, the hard work of repair, it's visible. It's part of the bond now.
And potentially the bond is stronger, not in spite of the break, but because it survived the break. It's been tested by fire, forged through forgiveness, recommitment, that hard-won loyalty.
It's a really powerful image. Acknowledging the damage, but celebrating the resilience it took to mend it.
It's profound, yeah. Hard-won hope, really.
Yeah. Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground. We went from the courage needed for radical candor through the really dark territory of betrayal, its anatomy, its impact.
Yeah.
And landed on this fragile but beautiful idea of the kintsugi friendship, built on true apology and reconciliation.
We've definitely moved way past the simple stuff. Hopefully giving you some powerful tools, some actionable wisdom.
For building, maintaining,
Yeah.
challenging, and even repairing those vital connections.
Yeah, our goal really was to give you a richer lens, a way to look at your own relationships and maybe find a greater capacity for both courage and compassion within them. They really do go hand in hand.
So we talked about the courage of radical candor, saying the hard truth to a friend, but thinking about that whole journey, especially the apology part, here's a final thought for you to maybe chew on.
Okay.
What requires more courage? The radical candor, where you challenge your friend. Or the true apology, where you have to take full responsibility, confront your own failure, where you're essentially challenging yourself.
Challenging the friend versus challenging the self. That's a deep question about where the heavier lift really is, about moral intelligence, maybe.
Something to think about as you navigate the advanced terrain of friendship. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.